Now I get it. Oh yes. Shun, this isn't bad. Not at all.
Probably not what you're expecting if you've been following the channel for a while, but rest assured, however clickbait the title may be, I do think it's true. Vanitas is a perfectly sexual anime. Originally, I had a whole intro full of jokes to get things started, but I rewrote it because this video took a much different turn. If you want some technical discussion, some character profiling, or some philosophical ramblings, there's a bit of everything in here for you. And it takes a second for us to really get on to the case study of Vanitas because we need to talk about anime as a whole first, but I promise it gets there and it gets pretty good, I think. But I think the best place we can start is with why sexual moments in anime land so flat and feel so forced most of the time. If you've watched some of my videos before, then you've probably heard me call out these moments as time wasters in anime or something that turns me off, no pun intended, from a new show. And although I am a cranky old idiot who hates fun, there's a good reason I hate these moments. This is in no way an exhaustive list on the subject, and I tend to not watch anime with these elements, so I won't be going too deep, but it's important to set a baseline. So let's make a quick list of some of the reasons why I hate fan service moments in anime. The action that gets us there is contrived. They behave like no human ever would, or scenes take place in unnecessary spots chosen just to have naked characters. They're often utilized as the introduction to female characters, casting them as immediate sex objects and often painting them as the same rehashed ideas of a perfect woman in both body and personality. They go against or do absolutely nothing for a character's development, stopping the action for a moment to Damn it. Oh, that was going so well. Shit. They go against or do absolutely nothing for a character's development, stopping the action for a moment of detached flat comedy. They specifically call out obvious elements as if we don't have eyes and can't see those elements being shoved in our face. Sometimes they go all out and make perversion a character's entire development. That's not a character, that's a crime. And there's probably even more I could list, but that's a decent idea of what we're talking about. If you look at all of this and think, well, that's just anime, then outside of the legitimately problematic aspects, that's fine, you do you. And there are anime where sex is just the point, or comedies that rely heavily on it as a part of the point. Dragon Maid is a fun anime, or at least season 1 is, I haven't seen season 2, and sometimes it's outright, well, yeah. So these things have a place, but when you're trying to craft a meaningful or deep story, but you can't keep your mind off of disjointed panty shots for 1 second, then I'm not going to be sympathetic. There's also anime that utilize sex in a much different and effective way. Evangelion, it shows us the depths of its characters' minds through their desire. It shows us the mental anguish that can come from pleasure or from the act of seeking it. The hospital scene is the crucial moment of Shinji's character. He wants pleasure from others, but is too afraid of rejection to try and receive it, so he takes it from Asuka when she can't say no. It's fucked up and terrible, but that's Shinji. In Cowboy Bebop, Faye is undeniably dressed skimpily to please the audience, but it's also part of her. It's part of the grift she plays, forced upon her by fate as an inescapable part of her life. So she uses it, both to her advantage and to feel powerful. When she looks for a fight on Callisto, it's a reclamation of power, a femme fatale who doesn't only have sex in her arsenal. In Beastars, Haru just wants to be treated like something more than small and weak, so she finds the one way that makes people look at her differently, when we're all too driven by nature to think about such things. It's a sad resolution that the connection we want is so much harder to find in anything else, and I naturally said we there, so have fun with this episode, psych majors. There's many more I could cover that use sex or the hint of but lack of it for something meaningful, from our often discussed Black Lagoon to our recent topic of Phantom, and even a throwback to our 3rd or 4th ever discussion of Elfenlied. But today we'll finally start talking about another anime that enters those ranks, the Case Study of Vanitas. Now, I'm not going to make the same mistake I did with Moriarty the Patriot. I won't be going too in-depth with thematic discussion before the 2nd season is here. Is there more here than I thought in my impressions of the anime? I think there will be, but I'll wait to confirm that and hope I stay wrong on this one. Today it's going to be about development and how the anime uses a healthy dose of, let's be real, at the end of the day it's some horny vampire sex to make its characters much more than otherwise. When one of these moments first popped up, my face looked like the thumbnail of a bad reaction channel. I'm not normally about vampires, so I wasn't expecting this. It was uncomfortable, but not in the sense of this is wrong, more like I feel like my watching this is wrong. Our first spot of it comes in the 4th episode, which is very comparable to the timeline of Cowboy Bebop, and how it saved one of its key elements for a few episodes in to create a more intense and surprising feeling. While I won't say Vanitas is on level with Bebop, I think that Decision is, because that hour or so of time beforehand lets us get a feel for the characters first. They've started to become something more concrete in our minds. For example, Vanitas' plan isn't fleshed out, but we see it develop as his usual speeches change.
I will do as I please! I will use my own methods! It matters not who disagrees! What, you object? I don't give a damn! It's happening no matter what you say!
And we get a better idea of his intentions through this. We see what he's like in front of an audience and what he's like alone. That maybe it is all an act. That he's really just figuring it all out as he goes along, no matter how confident he seems. And our best feel for this side of him is as he listens in on Noe and Domi having their moment. Should he really be listening to something so personal? Should we? By avoiding using these moments early, they become people first, and we're left with a feeling less like we opened an incognito tab and more like we accidentally overheard some friends in a moment of desire. Helping this is also the fact that they're not over-sexualized and their designs aren't inherently sexual. There's an allure to it, the way they have to inject sexuality into their interactions by revealing themselves, luckily for broadcast in a non-sensitive area. Much like their development, there's something underneath, but before that there's the surface, what we've seen and have a feel for already. Even when they get into it, this layer remains, a barrier more than just physically. In a way, it takes some of the connection out of it. They really don't need to go much past the surface for what they actually want here. While they're people to us, sometimes for each other they're just a means to an end. This is part of the uncomfortability. It's like we're watching a friend be used. But mentioning a surface level is quite relevant because these scenes show us adaptations of their personality. Vanitas is a bombastic villain-like main character who takes control of situations. He cuts to the chase, not offering others an excess of his time. Yet here he slows things down a bit. He ponders the situation and his own feelings out loud, breaking the act he set just moments before. And when things get intimate, the feeling continues. Despite his method to get to this point, once they're there, he's very much out of control. He's along for the ride, puns really not intended, I swear, and at the mercy of someone else. When I watch this moment, I don't feel the need to hop in a hot shower for a bit longer than usual. I feel a deeper appreciation for a character with genuine desire. Who can say we're exactly the same person in bed and out of it? Did we all walk around wearing our sexual history and wishes on our sleeves? No, it's filtered out in the translation from mind to society for better or worse, and having characters with that feel is exceptionally strong. Noe is no exception to this either. He and Vanitas are childish in different ways. Vanitas is caught up in his grandeur, and Noe is trying to take from that what he wishes for. He's a follower who seeks his wishes in the work of someone else rather than in his own. He's oblivious to what's actually right in front of him. So when he takes his relationship with Domi to be very literal, it makes sense. He's young and inexperienced, his words are direct and devoid of charm, his politeness becomes submissiveness as he's willingly near manipulated. And Domi, as we see later, doesn't seem to be to one side of the scale in those terms, but has to be because if she isn't quite forceful in what she wants, Noe would never notice it. To try and find something emotional, she brings up the past, very much emotional for him, as if to simulate a deep connection. And she takes a physical route that mimics intimacy in glances and grasps, but does nothing more than invoke its name in reality. All of these near-sex scenes bring one thing at minimum to these characters, an extension of their weakness in vulnerable moments. And isn't that what intimacy really is? It's when we let our guards down for a moment, free from the harsh onslaught of the world, and say, this is me at my worst, at my most free from the binding of society, unrefined by both construct and expectation. Will you accept it? And without this full picture, Vanitas and Noe each look at the idealized version of what the other has, these surface details that lack this vulnerability, and they draw conclusions from there. It's no mistake that Vanitas' scene comes after Noe's, after we see him looking depressed for the first time, and what he says before convincing Jean.
I don't know. At the moment, I guess I don't care what happens. No, wait, that's not it. I'm intrigued. If you were to drink my blood, what would such a thing feel like?
Not only does this show how he's feeling things out as he goes along, but the feeling I get from this is depression either way. Searching in danger for a new experience to lift yourself out of the depths is the same as not caring. In a very Vanitas way, he simply says the same thing but makes it sound different. He was lacking something he witnessed from a man he treats as an amusing follower. In saying he doesn't care what vampires think of his plan for them, he admits some air of superiority over them. Yet here's that amusing vampire follower with something he lacks. So Vanitas rights that wrong, and in a moment of her panic, he essentially forces himself on Jean. It's selfish and asymmetrical. For her, this is a moment of need, but for him, it's simply a moment of want. This isn't positive in any way. Vanitas and Domi are more manipulative than anything, waiting for vulnerable moments and claiming them as their own, covering their own negative emotions in those of others. It's like an escape in that way, a bit more real and dark. How do we define pleasure? As something of its own, or the avoidance of pain, or forgetting it for a moment? Here it would seem to be the latter, or at least in their minds it has become that. Seeing how unideal the relationships are, and jumping back to the idea of these surface level connections, I think it's fitting that their lovemaking is shown to be very ideal as well. It's hopelessly romantic, showcasing the full suite. It begins in a perfect mixture of spontaneity and tension with no awkward slip-ups or fumbles, forceful yet with an air of delicacy. They lock eyes in the midst of their pleasure to regain themselves, feeling each other's hurried breath only to return to an outright gorging of pleasure. They grip whatever's there as if it's the last barrier between them and an insanity derived from lust. When we see this contrasted with the fucked up emotions and motivations that come before and after, it only makes things feel lonelier. They can reach some peak of passion, but it's not within them to hold anything real from that, whether down to a lack of chemistry, desire placed elsewhere, minimal understanding, or anything more. Jean cries mid-bloodsuck are stand-in for sex because not only does she actually hate the man who's essentially blackmailing her, but at the same time, she's giving into a desire that's only part of her due to her probable curse. This is not a want, it's a need. And the comfort she gets afterwards? If it comes to that, I'll kill you, said with a blush and a soft tone, confirming Vanitas' non-standard derivation of love. Don't get me wrong, these scenes aren't included just for development. They also draw in the hopeless romantics like me who fall for this sort of thing with the twist of seeing it in a less ideal light. For me, that might even be more appealing. Maybe there's nothing here and it's just a stand-in for sex and nothing more. Maybe I'm just so wrapped up in my own desire to wax philosophical about the lack of connection I see in the world as if I'm Shogo Makishima, but at the same time realizing how little I do to see aside with connection, and then I have a one-sided conversation about it for others to witness. Watching unideal love is like a pity party of epic proportions that confirms your deepest fears, but also provides some validation for those moments that went so wrong. I think exploring the fucked up moments of sex is one of the most powerful things a show can do, because like we talked about here, it's that offering of vulnerability and weakness. But no matter how romantic a thought may be, romance doesn't hold within itself connection, only the potential for it. We can't just physically connect and expect the emotional side to sort itself out because we did the easy part. That's a lesson most media fails to teach. Think about every action movie where after one night of vague sex there's a declaration of love as one saves the other at the last moment. Or drama where a simple glance leads to some inseparable pair. Or anime where love has existed since long before we're here to witness the story and somehow has never tempered itself since. When Noe asks Vanitas what is love, even our well-spoken doctor can't offer more than empirical evidence, a few physical tics that he's defined as love for himself. Because there isn't some singular group of words which defines the complex emotions of humanity. I think given enough time and energy, we could create some all-being formula which solves the mysteries of life. But that time is likely longer than our existence, and the energy more than we'll ever have. In the same way, as each character begins to settle into what they've defined as love, we see something similar. Searching endlessly for the true name of love may yield great results, but can we say for a fact that quality is separable from quantity? Is one day of pure love actually greater than a year of strong like? Jean follows the former in theory, but the latter in forceful practice. Domi yearns for the former, but accepts the latter. Noe is too busy trying to define the concept to notice, and Vanitas in selfish one-sidedness takes the former for himself. But none of them seem to be happy. Is love the root of it, or the cause? Hopefully these are some of the questions the anime will answer as it continues next year. I said I wouldn't talk thematically, but here we are in the end, as I did so a lot, not being able to resist the urge to make myself seem interesting through speculation on concepts I understand no more than the fictional characters I discuss. Something in me has been wanting to talk about this idea of passion, love, and their interconnection for a while, but it was mostly a jumbled mess in my head with no medium to clarify the thoughts. So far, the Case Study of Vanitas has filled that role as I continue my journey of working on my issues through anime and the internet. I think it made a lot of smart decisions to make sexual aspects more than simple jokes or attention grabbers, and it's what I'm most hopeful for with the anime moving forward. As we wrap things up here, remember that a simple like or a quick comment can help support us all in this journey of anime and philosophy, so I can keep providing and so you and more can keep watching. Stick around and subscribe for more similar discussions like the others on screen, and as always, a huge thanks to our patrons for supporting us directly. If we can get enough members over there, you can have a say in what we cover next. But anyway, more links in the pinned comment, and I'll just say thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.